So for scene 42 at the very beginning, it starts off with Christopher on his own, sat down just in front of the door. So at the very beginning, Judy, who is the strawberry, Christopher is the mushroom, Roger is the banana. So they start walking on. I want Judy to be slightly in front and Roger to be slightly further forward and a bit further behind. So when they first come on, Christopher then stands up and then she runs in for the hug and gets pushed over. And then she gets back up and they touch hands. And then Roger's over here, probably looking away from them, getting kind of annoyed because he thinks that that means that Judy's ex-husband is still here. And then they stay similar to that for a little bit, and then they start trying to get him inside. So Roger first goes to the door and unlocks it. Then Judy goes up a bit and tells Christopher to go inside. And then Roger goes in and Judy makes Christopher follow. And then there's the line in which Christopher gives the rat to Roger. And then in the transition, Judy will come over to this side, Christopher will go further down stage, Roger will go over to this side, get one of the boxes out from the side of the stage and sit on it and get a newspaper, and he will read it for the rest of this scene. So in this scene it's just those two. So Christopher would be the furthest forward, and Judy slightly behind and to the left of him. So he's just sat down and getting his rucksack out, and while they were talking, Judy might potentially get down on her knees next to him, especially when she starts to howl and cry. I think it'd be really useful if she was right next to him so that he can get really confused and maybe walk away a little bit or shuffle away. So then in the transition, Judy would go over to the other side, Roger would go and put his box away and come back, so they'd be about here. And then the police officer will come in. And then to start off with, it would be Roger a bit further back, Judy kind of protecting the door at the same time protecting Christopher, and the police officer kind of a bit further downstage for making sure no one really gets blocked. I will have to think about the door in reality as to whether the audience might get blocked, but I think that should be a thing of actually in the stage. So the police officer will go through, so then he's going to go up and knock on the door. Judy will step to the side a bit and Roger will make sure that he's not being blocked, and then Christopher will go up to the door and they'll kind of talk through it until he eventually opens the door, and the police officer comes inside and so does Judy, and Roger stays on this side. So then they're talking over here for a bit. And then back in the transition, Christopher goes back in his sleeping bag. Judy goes over to the other side and the police officer goes back onto their box. So then Ed comes in, and I think Ed should be down here, mimicking Roger a bit, kind of looking away. Judy again kind of protecting the door and protecting Christopher. I think Roger should be a bit closer to Ed, trying to protect the other two. So maybe if he's actually looking more that way, so he can then talk to Judy and have their little argument. And then later on in that scene, so Christopher then will get up, get his knife out and go about here, I'd say. So he's not quite to the edge of the stage yet. So then Ed goes up towards Christopher's room and kind of charges through, and Judy follows suit. So she's in there with him. At that point, Roger will also let the police officer in with his door being down here, and they'll go back up to the top and start off on this side of the door looking through, because the door will still be open, and say his first 2 lines. And then when Ed turns around and says, "This is my son," the policeman will then walk through the door. Judy would then reposition so no one gets blocked. Christopher would move a bit further away. And then eventually the police officer gets Ed to go, and they'll go back to their seats. And then Judy leaves as well, so then he gets back in his sleeping bag. And then at this point, there will be one of the boxes out. Judy will be up here, and Roger will be down here. So when it's the morning, he'll kind of groggily get up, walk through into here, which is now the kitchen. So then Roger then hands over the milkshake, he goes back. Christopher says, "No, you gave it to me," while being sat on the box. He goes up, gives him the milkshake, so he goes, "You gave it to me." Judy goes up, takes it, and then gives it back to him when they redo that part of the scene. So then they start shouting at each other a little bit, with Christopher saying that he goes back to Swindon. And then for most of the rest of that scene, it kind of stays the same until he says that he stands and leaves, in which point he will walk back through the door and the lighting will change to show that he's gone back outside.